Hi, I'm Steve Hall. Welcome to this podcast where I'll discuss the way in and the way out of anxiety through coaching. Firstly, anxiety. It's an emotion that's normal in life and an even helpful one at times. However, it can also become quite damaging if it becomes ever present. On one end of the scale, anxiety can be as simple as a fear or a feeling of missing out on something we really want, to the other end of the scale where it can be an ever-present, an overwhelming fear of danger, and this impacts a person's entire life. Once anxiety takes over and affects behaviour, a person's freedom and ability to live in a relaxed and rewarding way, it's taken away. It's really sad seeing people in this situation when you know that there's an easier way. People with uncontrollable anxiety will seek relief from it any way they think that they can get it. They often withdraw from people or places where they fear their anxiety could be triggered because it feels so bad, but this often leads them away from the very place where they can get help from. Living with out of control anxiety, it's like living in constant fear. It's a life where things such as panic attacks can occur, sweating, hyperventilating, hypervigilance, nausea, palpitations, trembling. Some people even can get pain in their chest and they feel like they're having a heart attack. Others can have a pervading sense of doom. The list, it goes on, believe me, and it's all very frightening. Being in a state of constant alert like this, well, it requires a lot of energy. So it's quite fatiguing. It sucks the very energy out of people that they need to just feel normal, and that's what's being used up. All this can be made even worse when anxiety sufferers struggle to reason their way out of their emotional prison on their own. They find no answers or the keys to that massive big black door that holds them captive. And so there they just sit in the corner of their prison cell, feeling all alone, dejected, quite helpless really. They can also have feelings of being somehow responsible for their plight, often feel there's something wrong with them too. So they can sit in acceptance of being in this pitiful state for way too long. Way too long because there is another way. And here's the good news. The good news is there is good news. Anxiety can be treated, and the way out of it is a clear one. There are strategies and simple steps a sufferer can access to begin to relieve their systems straight away. And more importantly, there are programs that can unlock these dark dungeon doors and set sufferers free. Anxiety is often a counterintuitive problem. Consider this. It can be like being caught in a rip at the beach, yeah? Your first instinct is to swim harder towards the shore. As you panic, you swim harder and harder. Yet the harder you swim, the further out you're being carried by the rip. Eventually, you'll get so tired, you won't be able to swim anymore, and you'll sink, defeated by the ocean's currents. The safe way out of a rip, it's different. You need to counterintuitively, go against your natural instinct and swim sideways as you're being swept out, instead of towards the shore. And then when you're clear of the rip, you can begin to swim to shore, where you'll even be aided by the waves pushing you in that way. And this is where our anxiety-free coaching helps people most. Just like Albert Einstein once said, we can't solve problems by using the same thinking we used when we created them. Similarly, the most effective way out of an anxiety prison is with the help of a fresh set of eyes. Here's what it's like. When someone affected by anxiety tries to figure out their dilemma on their own, they may even get close to the answer, but often what happens is their own belief system that led to the condition in the first place kicks in and says, hey, I don't believe that. That can't be the way. And it turns them back onto the problem again, where they just keep going round in circles, finding even more problems to add to it along the way as it searches for evidence that its belief is true. Here's an example you might relate to. If you've ever gone to bed after a stressful day and you begin to replay the day's events in your mind, just trying to make sense of them, but instead of solving them, those stressful feelings just get more stressful and they just get worse and more confusing, and it keeps you awake. Well, this is a really good example. So here's a tip. If this happens again, use this alternative. Journal the problem so you won't forget what it was, and then you can put a full stop on your thinking in order to get some sleep and reconsider it in the light of day instead. Or even better, if you're lucky enough to have a considerate person to listen to you, explain your day and your feelings to them. Chances are it will all make sense when you have to explain it to someone else, because you'll need to explain it in a way that they can understand what happened as well, yeah? When you do, then you will be able to see the issue with clarity as well. So coaching your way forwards out of that prison is the key, because a coach sits outside of a person's belief system and can see things from the outside in a way that's not possible for an anxiety sufferer to see. This is such a breakthrough to people when this happens, because all of a sudden they can finally see things in a way that makes sense to them, and their journey towards the light from that moment onwards and into the life they always wanted begins. And that prison door need never be shut on them again. Thank you so much for listening. I do hope this has been enlightening and you know more about the way in and the way out of anxiety as a result. I'm Steve Hall.